We all know that feeling. I
Yeah.
think it's become the signature modern exhaustion.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at your screen, you've got a dozen tabs open, maybe 3 deadlines that are all fighting each other, and you just feel your attention fragmenting.
Right, it's just splintering.
Yeah.
And focus starts to feel less like a skill you can train and more like this, mythic thing.
Exactly, like something you'll only get if you win the lottery and, I don't know, move to a cabin in the woods.
And that feeling, that sense of being completely overwhelmed, is actually the perfect place to start because the solution we're diving into today was born from that exact feeling.
It wasn't from some big corporate efficiency study.
No, not at all. It came from utter frustration.
So let's tell that origin story because it's so human. We're talking about the Pomodoro Technique.
We are, and it started with a university student, Francesco Cirio, back in the late 80s, early 90s.
And he's just staring at this, huge pile of books and research papers.
Yeah, just a mountain of work. Classic student brain out. The task felt infinite, and his motivation was basically at zero.
But his genius was in how he reframed it. He didn't try to summon some heroic effort.
No, he just looked at the pile and said something so simple. He said, I can't do all of this, but I can do 25 minutes.
25 minutes. That's
Sure.
it. That's the anchor for this whole thing. And the name, of course, is the charming part.
Right, from the little tomato-shaped kitchen timer he had on his desk. Pomodoro is just Italian for tomato.
It's such a humble origin for what became this global system.
It really is. So our mission for this deep dive is to get past that surface level idea of, 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off.
Right.
We want to really explore the mechanism. What is this simple timer actually doing to your brain's threat response? Why is it such a powerful weapon against procrastination? And I think most importantly, how can you use it if your schedule is just pure chaos?
Okay, so let's start from the ground up. The foundation is simple, but we should probably define that standard cycle very clearly.
Absolutely. So one Pomodoro is a single 25-minute block of completely uninterrupted, focused work.
Uninterrupted is key.
Crucial. And that is immediately followed by a mandatory 5-minute break. After you do 4 of those cycles, you've earned a longer rest, usually somewhere between 15 and 30 minutes.
And it was built to help students fight procrastination. It obviously worked because it's now one of the most used focus systems in the world.
It exploded.
But you said something earlier that really caught my attention. You said this isn't actually about productivity. How can a system built around timed work blocks not be about productivity?
I know it sounds like a contradiction, but it's about the primary goal. When we think productivity, we're usually thinking about maximizing output, right? Grinding, being efficient.
Yeah, getting more done.
The genius of Pomodoro is that its main goal isn't just more output, it's about establishing what I'd call a truce with the mind.
A truce. That implies there's a war going on in the first place.
Precisely. The war is that psychological resistance you feel when you face a huge, difficult task. Our culture tells us great work needs this, marathon effort.
To sit down and grind for 8 hours straight.
Exactly. The Pomodoro Technique flips that. It says you only have to be perfect for 25 minutes. And that small window just dramatically lowers the mental barrier to getting started.
So the timer takes this monster task, like write the whole report, and it shrinks it down to something manageable, like just work on the introduction for 25 minutes. It lowers the stakes.
It creates urgency with the ticking clock, but, and this is the key, it removes the anxiety because the end is always just a few minutes away. The pressure is off. It's a system that actually honors our biology instead of fighting against it.
Okay, so let's get into that biology. You said the resistance is neurological. How does a 25-minute timer solve a physiological problem in our brain?
It starts with the most ancient part of our brain, the amygdala. Your brain hates, and I mean hates, undefined effort.
It wants to know when it's going to be over.
It has to. When you look at a project that could take days or weeks, that uncertainty triggers the amygdala. It sees that open-endedness as a threat.
And it basically screams, this is going to take forever. Abort. Abort.
That's a perfect way to put it. So procrastination really isn't about laziness. It's just your amygdala being overprotective.
So how does the timer disarm it?
You put the threat in a box. By setting a 25-minute boundary, you're telling your brain's threat center, hey, relax. We're only doing this for a very short defined period. Then we stop. The amygdala stands down.
And once you're past that wall of resistance, you're engaging the more modern part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, which handles focus.
Right. And what we know from cognitive load theory is that the PFC is powerful, but it's also an energy hog. It burns through glucose and neurotransmitters to maintain focus.
So it has a time limit.
It absolutely does. Research shows that peak focus naturally starts to degrade right around the 20 to 40 minute mark. If you try to power through that, you just hit diminishing returns.
So 25 minutes isn't some random number. It's designed to hit that sweet spot of peak attention right before our brain starts to get tired.
It is the sweet spot. And that brings us to maybe the most important and most ignored part of the whole system.
A 5-minute break.
The 5-minute break. People see it as wasted time, but neurologically, it's where some of the most critical work gets done.
So if the 25 minutes is about conscious effort, what's happening in the brain during that 5-minute pause?
You're activating what's called the default mode network, the DMN. When you're hyper-focused, the DMN is quiet. But the second you stop, you stand up, you look out the window.
It fires up.
It fires right up. And this is the network that handles subconscious processing. It's connecting ideas, and it's consolidating short-term memories into long-term learning.
So all those little problems you couldn't solve, the awkward sentence, the bug in the code, your brain is actually still working on them in the background while you're taking a break.
Precisely. You step away, and your brain is essentially, running a defrag. There's research from the University of Illinois that shows regular breaks dramatically reduce error rates. If you skip the break, you're not a hero. You're just making the next block of work harder.
That makes so much sense. And what about the emotional side? You mentioned the dopamine flip. Procrastination feels like a guilt spiral.
It is. Avoidance leads to guilt, which makes you want to avoid it even more.
So how does the Pomodoro cycle break that?
It gives you a win. Immediately. Our brains crave closure, and when that timer rings at 25 minutes, you've successfully completed a task. That triggers a small release of dopamine.
It's like a little neurochemical pat on the back.
It is. So you've replaced the guilt loop with a momentum loop. Start, succeed, feel good, and now you're more likely to start the next one. You're stacking small wins.
It feels very modern, this idea of hacking our brain with timers.
Yeah.
But you've pointed out that the core principle here, it's actually ancient.
Right. Are we just rebranding old wisdom? I think the answer is yes, in the best possible way. The idea that humans work best in rhythmic cycles is, well, it's a theme across thousands of years of human culture.
Okay, so give me an example. How does a kitchen timer connect to, say, the Stoics?
The Stoics practiced this structured, deliberate action and reflection. They would literally block out time to think through potential challenges. That's exactly what the 60-second setup in a Pomodoro is. Before you start, you define your goal and what you're going to ignore.
You're preparing your mind for the task.
You're setting the container. Or look at monastic life. Medieval scholars had what they called the canonical hours.
Right, for prayer and study.
Exactly. Structured blocks of time matins, vespers with mandatory breaks for reflection built right in. They knew you couldn't just run your brain at full tilt all day long.
I see that rhythm. Work and rest aren't enemies, they're partners.
And you even see it in warrior training. The samurai aim for mushin or no mind, this state of intense, spontaneous clarity.
Which you can only hold for a short period.
Only in short, sharp bursts. It was about perfect execution, followed by recovery. The core idea is that we are biological, rhythmic beings. We work in cycles, not on a linear assembly line.
This brings up a common fear, though. If we're using strict timers and breaking everything into little blocks, don't we risk becoming robotic, losing our spontaneity?
It's a really valid fear, but I think it mistakes the tool for the goal. The risk of becoming a robot comes from suppressing your humanity, your intuition, your emotions, your need for rest.
And Pomodoro, done right, actually builds in that rest.
It forces it.
Yeah.
It organizes your attention, not your identity. By honoring your natural limits, it actually protects you from the burnout that makes you feel like a machine.
Okay, so this is where it gets really practical. What about the person listening right now whose calendar is just a wall of back-to-back meetings? They have no control, no ability to block out 4 hours.
And this is the most important part of this whole deep dive. The Pomodoro Technique has to be a principle, not a religion. If your life is chaotic, you can't be rigid. You have to adapt the logic.
So we need some actionable strategies. What's the smallest possible intervention.
I call them micro pomodoros, tiny little bursts. 3, 5, maybe 10 minutes.
Okay.
Think about that 7-minute gap you have between 2 Zoom calls. You can use that for a tiny focused reset. Clear out 2 important emails, outline 1 slide. It stops those little tasks from bleeding over into your next big meeting.
So instead of just grabbing coffee and scrolling your phone, you're being intentional with that tiny sliver of time.
Exactly. Intentionality over default. Next up is what we call boundary pomodoros.
Okay.
You might not control the middle of your day, but you probably have some control over the edges. Block one 25-minute session first thing in the morning before the chaos hits.
Tackle your most important task.
Or just use it to plan your day. And you can do the reverse. A 20-minute Pomodoro at the end of the day to decompress, clear your desk, and plan for tomorrow. It stops work from leaking into your home life.
I love this next one because it's for when you literally can't control your calendar. The contextual Pomodoro. How do you block your attention when you can't block time?
This is pure principle. Let's say you're stuck in an airport, your flight's delayed. You can just decide, okay, the next 25 minutes is my Pomodoro. You put on your headphones and you practice single tasking with extreme focus.
Well, you're creating an internal boundary even when the external world is a mess.
That's it. You block your attention, close the other tabs, silence the notifications. You commit mentally, even if the environment is distracting.
And the last one, the recovery Pomodoro. This seems critical for high achievers who feel guilty about stopping.
It is. You use the principle for rest itself. If you've just come out of a 3-hour intense meeting, you schedule a mandatory 5-minute pause afterward.
Even if your calendar says you have to jump right into the next thing.
Especially then. That deliberate pause is a recovery Pomodoro. Stand up, walk around, just breathe. You're protecting your mental battery for the rest of the day.
Okay, so we have the why, the how, and the how to adapt. Let's finish with the small habits that actually make this work day to day.
Number 1, the 60-second setup. Before you hit start on that timer, take just 1 minute and define 2 things. First, what is the one single goal for these 25 minutes?
And it has to be specific, not work on report, but write the first 2 paragraphs at the conclusion.
Exactly, tiny clarity. And second, what are you going to actively ignore? Email, your phone, name the distraction.
That's powerful. And what about the break?
Protect the break. Seriously, don't spend the 5 minutes scrolling your phone. That's just trading one form of cognitive load for another.
It totally defeats the purpose of activating that default mode network.
Completely. Stand up, stretch, look out a window, let your mind actually reset.
And finally, what about when you mess up? The phone rings at minute 18, you get distracted. Do you scrap the whole thing?
Absolutely not. This has to be compassion-based. If you lose focus, just notice it, gently bring your attention back, and keep the timer going. Perfection is the enemy of consistency. The goal is just to finish the 25 minutes.
This whole deep dive really shows that focus isn't something you're just born with. It's a resource you have to cultivate, a skill you build.
And when you set that timer, you're making a conscious choice. You're deciding to be a participant in your own mind, not just a passenger getting dragged around by every notification.
Productivity, then, isn't about grinding. It's about being fully awake and present in the moments that really matter.
And that's the key takeaway. Calm is a skill, not just a personality trait. Awareness always comes before you can change anything. And sometimes the simplest tool, a 25-minute tomato timer, is all you need to start.
So the real question is, what small container of intentional focus will you protect for yourself today?